Welcome back, everybody. Our next guest is a Grammy-nominated artist whose music has pulled at our heartstrings for almost 3 decades, both as an independent singer-songwriter and a member of the Canadian indie rock group, The New Pornographers.
And now, yes. And now, in a gripping new memoir, she's giving us an intimate look at her life. So please welcome to the show, author of The Harder I Fight, The More I Love You, Neko Case.
Thank you.
Neko, thanks so much for being here. I was telling you earlier that I devoured the book in a weekend, and even though we had very different upbringings, I found the images that you kind of spelled out in this book were just, it reminded me of my childhood in many ways. You're a gorgeous writer. I'm curious though, you've written countless songs. How does writing a memoir compare? Was there one process that's easier or harder?
I think it's easier to write a song only because I don't generally write about myself. I like to make up stories. And originally, when I was asked to write a book, I thought I would be writing a book of fiction. And then, you know, Grand Central Hachette said, well, we'll pay you to write a memoir. And it was the height of the pandemic. And I was like, memoir it is. Can't do. So I wasn't like being bullied or nobody was twisting my arm or anything. It was just like, okay, this isn't something I thought I would do, but I'm a very visual thinker. I have pretty intense ADHD, and you know, it's a neurodivergent way is to be a visual thinker. And so A, there's that, and then B, I was like, well, it's a book about me. I don't want to be super boring. I know all my stories already.
Yeah.
How am I going to make that exciting for people? So I think I very much focused on trying to set a scene and making people feel like they were there, rather than like, and then I was 10, and I went to 4th grade, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, you do take this like beautifully raw and heart-wrenching look at sort of various facets, fragments of your life. Can you sort of walk us through what your childhood was like?
My childhood was not unlike a lot of people's childhoods in that I grew up very poor. My parents were very young teenagers when they had me, and they were not interested in being parents. They were children. They did not understand, you know, what was about to happen to them. And I'm sure they were terrified and not right for one another. So it ended up in divorce, and neither of my parents wanted me, so I was in one place with a parent who didn't want me, and then another place with a parent who didn't want me. Luckily, I had a stepfather who did want me, so that was kind of like a saving thing. But you know, it was. It sounds very. The book is not like trauma porn, I promise. It's more, you know, this is what happens when you're poor and when weird things happen or when you're neglected. There was a lot of neglect. That was, I'd say that was the lion's share of what happened.
Struck me was around the time of that this photo was taken of you in this adorable blue bathing suit with this cat. This is when you were staying with your mom.
If only you knew how filthy that bathing suit was.
Yes, but you talk about how this was the time when you were staying with your mom technically, and your mom and your stepdad would go off to work, and you were basically spending, I don't know, what was it, like about 3 hours a day with adults and the rest of the time alone.
Yes.
And so you would describe that as a form of kind of emotional starvation at that time. So how did you cope with that feeling of sort of maybe being isolated or abandoned at that time?
Well, the place we lived at that time was the Colville Nation in Eastern Washington. And it is a really unbelievably beautiful place. And I spent my days with my pets and in nature. And since I wasn't really supervised or, you know, influenced in either household, I formed my own relationships with nature and with animals. I was not instructed on what they are. I didn't have like super, you know, Christian or colonial ideas as to how I was supposed to interact with nature.
Yeah, even an occasional rattlesnake.
And yeah, and you know, I didn't think anything was out to get me. I just felt like everything was living, and I respected that.
Looking back on your childhood now, is there a moment that you remember where you realized, oh, okay, maybe this isn't because of me. Maybe this has more to do with the adults in my life, like my parents, like my mother?
Yeah, I mean, in my 20s, I definitely figured out that my parents did not choose what was happening to them, and they weren't brought up with, you know, they weren't given tools to deal with things like trauma or depression or anything like that. So they were doing the best that they could do, you know, based on their experience, which was pretty bizarre also. So, you know, they did what they could. I have a lot of empathy for my father and empathy for my mother to a point.
And after everything you've been through, like, what's your take on forgiveness? Has it been helpful, or do you maybe not even, maybe that doesn't factor into your mindset?
I think about forgiveness a great deal because, like, I think most women I know, and a great deal of men I know, have been victims of sexual abuse, sexual assault abuse, you know, be it mental or physical. And there is a lot of emphasis put on the survivors of these things to forgive, which is a very noble thing. And if you come by that organically and you feel it, and it's really yours, it is a beautiful thing that will make you feel better. But if somebody gives it to you like it's a job you're supposed to do, now you need to figure out how to forgive them. Like, and if you don't forgive them, there's something wrong with you. So to me, it seems like forgiveness has been co-opted in a way that makes it kind of better for the perpetrators of violence and sexual abuse, et cetera, than it is for the victim, because now it's something else that they're going to get wrong. And like I said, it's not like a black and white thing. It's, you know, forgiveness is fantastic and one of our greatest human traits that we can forgive.
One of the things that's woven through your entire book is the presence of music, of course, right? It's like you can see the influences. You're picking up a radio, you're listening to this, you know, Blondie or, you know, Joan Jett. And yet I understand that you, for a long time, first of all, when you started getting into music, you were a drummer, and then you were kind of a reluctant singer, even though, and you said that you didn't really consider your voice, I think the quote is something like, neither pretty nor, I can't remember exactly what it was, but you have this gorgeous, incredible voice. Was there a point at time when you decided, okay, like, this music is in me, I need to express myself this way?
I think the music was, like, singing was something I enjoyed doing alone in the house when nobody was around. And I knew that I had really intense desire to do it, to the point where the only thing you could say is, I can't help it. And so then I just made sure that I was in the right places at the right times, and I kind of fell into it slowly by playing drums in bands, but singing along. And then I was in a band called Mao in Vancouver with my friends Karina and Toby, and they were like, will you sing it? And I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna sing it, you know? So I had friends who helped, and then also I just got less and less scared.
You did it. Wow, and we're so pleased that you're here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And The Harder I Fight, The More I Love You is out now, and studio audience, you're all going home with your very own copy today. Hey you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.